All right, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for being with us. Sorry about that technical difficulties. I'm glad you're here and looking forward to our discussion. This is Global Entrepreneurship Week here in Michigan and all around the world with 100+ countries that are on it. It's really looking forward to having this discussion. So with that, let's jump right in. Today's discussion, we're going to talk about, goal setting. And every year about this time, actually, we have a 4-series workshop that we do together, talking about planning and strategizing for your next year. And this is one of the sessions that we usually do. We could unfold it for weeks or days, but in this case, we're going to just have it for 1 hour or so, or half hour or so through this discussion. And the goal will be highly interactive, that we can get you engaged in setting up your goals for the year ahead. So just quickly, so you can see like what we're going to cover today, we have a quick agenda. We're going to talk about the different types of goals. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the SMART framework and how to identify it, and then creating some priorities and some actionable steps that you will be taking after you set up your goals today. I know many of you are joining via Zoom, so thank you for joining via Zoom. And please feel free to go ahead and maybe write your name and one fun fact about you. And then, of course, if you would like to get a copy of these slides or any of the other slides that we have done the other workshops on, you're welcome to do that by joining our community online. We create communities every time we deliver a program. This is how we're structured. So feel free to use your phone, or if you want to just join it, in the bottom, there's the class code, so you could join it through our ISM online communities. When we talk about goals, the truth is there are so many goals that you could set up, right? And I couldn't tell you which goals you should set up or not, or what type of goals, but I'm going to just highlight a few of them here. You could talk about some of your short-term or long-term. You could have some financial goals. You may have some business or personal or professional goals. You may have operation goals. You may have employment or development goals. You may have future goals, meaning something for the future, maybe not now, all right? There are all kinds of goals that you could set for yourself. And what I will say is, please know that you could set whatever goals you want. Today, we're going to talk about just the planning goals for next year. And you might say, Ferris, why is this so important? I could share a story with you. I used to say that I wanted to open so many offices with my first business. And when I was saying it verbally, it was clear to me that it was not resonated with some people. And as I started writing it down and sharing it with people, it became clear that when you write something down, people become a little bit more excited and interested in it, and they become a little bit more serious, and it somewhat holds you accountable. So it's one way for you to align your personal or business vision with the outcomes by writing it out and then measuring the progress towards it, because then you can see, all right, I want to open 2 offices, I got 1. I want to expand my footprint, I did this. And then it also provides motivation and focus for not only for you, but maybe for your team or for the people that you're working with, including sometimes your customers as well as your supporters. You're probably familiar with this term. I'm not going to dwell on it too much today because of the time restrictions that we have, but you want to make sure that you have what we call these days SMART goals. And I know there's new terms and new format, and other people may add to it or take away, but generally speaking, this is the fundamentals of what I would call goals. So you want to make sure that it is, specifics enough that you know what it is. You want to make sure that it's somewhat measurable. You use the example that being rich is not a goal, right? It's an aspiration. So now you can say, what's the goal from that? Well, then you're going to be specific. You're going to be able to measure it. You're going to be able to achieve it. And it's going to be relevant to what you're doing. And then I will usually say that without time, it just becomes a dream. Nothing wrong with that. It's just not the goals, right? So how do you identify these priorities? I would encourage you to first think about, and we're going to walk through that a little bit in a few minutes from now, is to encourage you to really think through what are the business priorities for you this year. Now, you can have 5 years or 10 years, but we're going to focus for 1 year, all right? And you can see how we could do this for 5 years, 10 years, or even for 3 months, or even for a week. Once you learn this process, you can take that process and deploy it. And of course, we'd love to be a part of that journey if you're interested, right? So I would focus on what really is important for that year, what's important for you and for your team, for your customers, And then understanding how you're going to get there is really key, because sometimes there's a balance between what you want to do and what you can do based on the resource that you have or you plan to deploy for that year. So how do we break them down? We're going to start with a big goal for the year. Then we're going to break them down into quarterly in this workshop. And then once we break them down to quarterly, we're going to then break them down one more time on a monthly basis, and then one more time on a weekly basis, and then one more time during the week. And you're going to see how we're going to do that. So therefore, we can build it up together. And once we get into those sheets, I'm hoping that you're able now to download our workbook. And if those who would like to buy more copies, they're available on Amazon, shameless plug, for what, $7, I think, or $8. So feel free to do that anytime you'd like it. Those who are attending it today, you will get it clearly for part of the package here. So feel free to download it for yourself. So you might want to think about also, as you start some goals, is think about, I usually say you want to tie it up with some metrics and KPIs, okay? And this is kind of like, you might have some targets, you might want to then measure of what you was done, and then you might want to be able then to see if there's differences or not. This allows you to keep going towards your goals, all right? So with that, I'm giving you some examples here, right? That you could potentially have that, maybe it's the meeting duration. You want to have half-hour meetings, or you want to have an hour meeting, or you are entering new market partnerships. You may have a goal of 3. You actually only did 2. There's a difference of 1. So you could start judging and modifying your following year goals. So therefore, a little bit more realistic based on trends. If you haven't done it before, just think about how you're going to reach them. We're going to walk through that. So those who have the workbook, let's jump right in. I think the best way to learn something is sometimes doing it, for those who likes to do things. So let's jump right in and do it. And then let's start with these instructions. I'm not going to read them, clearly read them, but I want you to think about one thing. When I give you this sheet, which you already have, think about one big goal for yourself for the entire year. So what would be at the end of next year, December 2026, what would be the one thing that you feel like you accomplished or you want to accomplish? And we're going to take it then, break it down into quarterly, smaller ones, and then we're going to break them down to monthly and then weekly. An example, I want to open a second location. It's a great goal to have, right? That's the goal by the 2026 December. I want to have a second location open. Well, now let's backtrack. Well, first thing is there a demand? Is our customers wanting it? Where are you going to open, right? There's so many questions that need to be answered. So now we can break it up into chunks. So in quarter 1, maybe identify where is the demand is coming from. Where are the customers coming from? Maybe you could check your database to see if there's certain zip codes, right? So identifying the location would be the next sub goal, or identifying the need or want from the customers. Then identifying the location, right? That's maybe quarter 2. Then negotiating lease and signing. That's maybe quarter 3. And then quarter 4, the beginning of opening. Do you see how we took one big goal of opening and then we broke it up? Then now we can come up with monthly goals. So let's go ahead and start that. And right where it says main goal, please go ahead and write your main goal for your business. I can't speak to every single one of you because each one of you is different. Obviously, the one-on-one sessions could help, but for now, just think about what I just mentioned as an example. I'm happy to use other examples. If you want, just put it in the chat, give me another example, and then we'll go ahead and do that. So main goal, and then once you write it down, if I go with my second location goal, then I have to think about resources that's available for me. Could be, I have a customer database I can visit, or if see, I have a market research access to. Maybe you have, access to customers been calling and demanding, and you've been taking notes, like we got 3 calls today for this location or for this zip code or from this area code. And you list that in. Then you think about missing resources. Well, I don't have enough data. Maybe you've never captured the data. Maybe you are missing cash for the second location. You're going to need $250,000 or $500,000 or $50,000 or whatever to open that second location. Maybe you're going to need to hire some people for the second location, whatever you're missing. And then action needed. So I need to start my application for funding. I need to start looking for people to train, whatever. And then who's going to be responsible and what date is needed to be done. I'm going to give you a minute so you could, it's a lot. This is why we usually spend days doing this kind of thing. We usually do it like in a half a day to a full day workshop with a team that's doing it, or with a bunch of group of people, and then each one of you will take the time to do it. Today's goal, because of the Global Entrepreneurship Week, the goal is to give you the process. So hopefully you could just spend the time or engage us in additional conversation. So go ahead and write it down. And maybe you could put one resource available, one missing resource, an action needed, and a data and a person that will do it. And we'll go from there. And you can see that this could be used year over year. In the bottom, you could write the year, and there might be some notes. You might be like, I need to investigate this. I need to look into this. All right. I'm going to move on just because if you're probably watching this, you could pause it now. And if you're live with us right now, you could write as fast as you can, I guess, so we could be done. We budgeted about 30 minutes for this, and we're almost there. Milestones. So now we could take that. I'm going to use my example of second location, and I'm going to, like I said earlier, there might be multiple milestones I'm going to reach within that quarter. I put here 3 just for easy math, but you can easily make them 4 because, maybe that's what you want. Maybe you can make them 6. The reason I did 3 because I just assumed once a month, there'll be one goal. 4 quarters times 3 is 12 months for the year. You could make this for the week. You could make this for whatever you want. You can make it every week. Every month, there are 4 goals. That's fine. You can do that. So now that I said second location, quarter 1 could be research my internal data to identify potential second location based on zip codes of customers that I already have. Maybe you've been collecting data. Maybe the credit card machine gives you where the zip code or billing for. You have that kind of data. So therefore, you can go back and research it. Or I need to conduct market research. I need to identify a new location for me. And maybe you have a way to do that. Maybe you open where there's another store of certain type close to you, all right? Or maybe you open because of certain level of income. Whatever your persona of your customer is, this is where you could spend the time to do that. Quarter 1. Action steps. Maybe my administrative assistant will do it. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe my market research intern will do it. Maybe I will hire someone to do it. And then the data and the person that's needed and the action steps of what needs to happen. You're going to do that for every quarter. And then what we want to do is once you write that down for every quarter, then you move to now each one of the months of those quarter. And those who are joining us and will have access to this, this presentation, you clearly can download this and do it right then and there, or you're welcome to, follow up later and get the book and do it that way. But basically, each quarter will be the same. There are 3 months, there are action steps, and there's a date and the person that's responsible. So month 1, you can see that I have given you like 2 to 5, I think they're all 5 weeks, assuming that they're somewhere between 4 to 5 weeks in every month. So therefore, you could just write what every week needs to happen. So week 1, maybe pull the data down from the CRM system that we use, the contact relationship management software that we use. Week 2, sort the data by zip code and by dollar spent or whatever, right? Action. I need to see the percentage of people from one zip code versus another. You want to compare maybe. Another one could be meet with the SPDC office or whoever you're going to work with to do your market research. You could do that, right? So that's another thing you could do. And then the data and the person. You're going to do that for each quarter. It's quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. And that sums it up. Remember, it's following that one big goal that you have. And this is why we usually do it interactive, because we want you to actually do these things. And if you're watching this as a replay, please pause in every one of them and take the time to write it down. Of course, we do have workshops and programs that you could engage us with. So I think our CEO roundtables and mastermind classes are great for this, because then you can spend the time analyzing and digging deeper. And we're focusing on you and your business. That's one way to engage us. And you could sign up for that on our website. With that being said, I'd love to hear from you. So one word about today. To put that in the chat or if you're rewatching this, in the comments section. And I want to thank you for being with us. If you'd like to stay in touch, here's our contact information. Happy 2020 happy Global Entrepreneurship Week. And for those who are interested in staying in touch with me personally, please feel free to use my contact information with the company right here. You can download your phone. And then if you would like to connect with LinkedIn, just make sure that you mention that you've attended the workshop or you're met during the Global Entrepreneurship Week. And that's the link. And I want to say thank you for being with us. Till next time, see you tomorrow. For those who are joining us for another workshop. And I know there are lots of things happening today, so feel free to attend any of the other activities or events. Thank you.